No doubt you've heard by now the United Nations Security Council today unanimously passed a resolution endorsing more stringent weapons inspections on Iraq. And U.S. President Bush warned that if Iraq does not comply with this resolution, that country will face serious consequences. Joining us now, Yanar Mohammed. She is an Iraqi Canadian and a member of the Committee for the Defense of Iraqi Women's Rights. She is in Toronto. And Intifad Kanbar, an Iraqi American and director of the Iraqi National Congress in Washington. Thank you two very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Yanar, if we could start with you, what was your reaction to what happened today?
I felt disappointed. I felt all the anger for the Iraqis that were denied the right to life, because a military attack like that, we know very well, will kill a minimum of thousands of Iraqis. And for that, I find it very hard to believe that the United Nations passed such a resolution. This does not match the mandate of such an organization.
Intifad, do you agree with that?
I read the resolution several times. There's no mention of war in the resolution. The resolution gives unfettered access to presidential sites and weapons of mass destruction, and I think this is a great resolution, and I think it's a great step forward to fight the war of against terrorism. Saddam is the longest living terrorist in the world, and I'm very thankful to President Bush, who led this war as an ally to the Iraqi people, which we hope we can see democracy after such a brutal regime who caused the death of 1 in every 7 Iraqis during the last 35 years.
How much support does Saddam have in Iraq, Yanar?
Saddam has a support of, I wouldn't be exaggerating if I said not more than 5% of the people. Nobody wants him to stay there except for the people who are highly paid and are living around him in his palaces. Those are the only people who want him around. So even parts of his family don't want him there anymore.
So let me ask you then, if you don't like the saber rattling coming from Washington, there is no mention of war in the resolution, but we all know what the subtext is. If you don't like the prospect of military action against Iraq, and everyone agrees that Saddam is bad for the country, what's the alternative?
The alternative is to lift the economic sanctions on Iraq, the economic sanctions that turned our people into helpless people, deprived, relying on the government for their daily food, and let them live a normal life, let them be empowered, and then they will overthrow Saddam. They are very rebellious people. They are very well qualified to overthrow him. The solution should not come from abroad. I was there when the first military attack happened, and I saw all the thousands of Iraqis that were killed. And there's one other detail that nobody mentions in the media, is that the economic sanctions made the people reliable, completely on the government. If the government is down, the daily food is not there for the people, there will be a famine. And that famine will mean the death of tens of thousands every month. Now, is that spare of human life, does that have no worth for anybody? The United Nations knows these numbers. The UNICEF mentioned them. So
I have to let Intifad in on this. How do you react to that, sir?
Well, her facts are not lining up, because Saddam was in power since 1968, and the sanctions were imposed in 1991. So Saddam stayed in power 23 years before the sanctions, and the Iraqi people tried very hard, that she's rightly so, and he has very small support. She was right on that too. And in spite of that, the Iraqi people gave their blood and lives. I was personally imprisoned in Iraq by the Iraqi military intelligence, and they couldn't remove Saddam by themselves. Every revolution needs help from outside. The American Revolution was helped by the French and other sources. Every revolution needs help from the outside, especially when you have Saddam in power with massive oil resources. I don't think the Iraqi people are capable to remove Saddam by themselves, and we look for allies to help us on a mutual respect manner, and I think this day is coming very soon. And by the way, not only removing Saddam is the problem is we should work very hard to have a democracy, a respect for individual rights, a federalist, pluralistic system that respects all people's rights, including women and the weak in Iraq.
Yanar, if we can leap to the end of this, if everyone agrees that Saddam should go, it seems you only differ on which technique would be best to remove him. If he should go, what's the process by which he's replaced? Who replaces him? What replaces him?
Well, of course, the American solution of putting generals to replace him so as to control the Iraqi people is not something that's favorable by the Iraqis. We don't want another Saddam, if that's what we're going. But I tell you again, the Iraqi people are qualified to take care of themselves, and I answer Intifad there. Saddam couldn't have stayed all these years before the Desert Storm if not supported by the Americans. They supported,
and the Soviets.
They supported him, they gave him...
And the Chinese.
So,
and all over the world.
Let me finish my point here. Our point is that the Iraqi people decide their fate, not the Americans, and we do not need help from Americans who have killed 1.5 million Iraqis by their sanctions that were imposed on us, sanctions that we were not responsible for. When Iraq invaded Kuwait, that was the work of the dictator. That was not the decision of the people. Then they starved us, they made us die by millions, and now they're punishing us again? What gives them the right to do this to us?
Yanar Mohammed, thank you very much. Intifad Kanbar, thank you, sir.